The Red Bull Ring in Austria welcomes the International GTOpen Championship for round 6 today of the 2020 season. And after an entertaining first race yesterday, the scene has been set for another very exciting day of GT action here at the Red Bull Ring, the high-speed circuit in the Austrian hills. Cars heading out onto the circuit now for their 30-minute qualifying session. This will set the grid for that second race later on today. And of course, it is the second driver in each of the cars that has to take part in this session. So yesterday, driver 1, the other driver each team nominated as driver 1, took part in the session. This time it is the turn of the other driver to go out and qualify, with one exception. There is one car being driven solo this weekend. Straight away, some big news after yesterday's race. If you joined us for race 1, then you will have seen a historic victory for the Writer Engineering run KTM Crossbow GTX concept, which was making its debut in the championship. And it won from third on the grid, got into second at the start, and then it overtook the Teo Martin Motorsports McLaren of Marcello Hahn pretty quickly after the pit stops. However, after the race, there was a penalty applied, a disqualification actually to KTM for non-compliance of the brake disc size. So the car was disqualified from the race result, and the win therefore went to the second place Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren of Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez, which itself had a bit of a miracle comeback from ninth on the grid. So that car was already leading the championship, but that was their first victory of the season, and they now extend their points margin to 11 points over the AF Corsa APM Monaco Ferrari of Louis Pret and Vincent Abril. So a dramatic day yesterday. It was a really, really good race. There was some great battling throughout, and in true GTOpen style, we never really knew what the final result was going to be right until the very final few moments. But a great race was had, and looking forward to more of the same today. Andy McEwen up here in the commentary box, Elliot Woods alongside me, and we're both hoping to have a repeat of the kind of action that we had in yesterday's race, because it did really keep us guessing right from the word go. And this qualifying session will have a pretty big impact on what the complexion of that second race will be. A shame that the KTM lost its race victory. It doesn't affect the championship standings though, because that car and the 69-round racing car, they're both guest entries this weekend, so they don't score points. It was a great story whilst it lasted though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit of history for the brand, and I guess for Austria as well, because it is an Austrian manufacturer. So KTM's been making kind of open top sports cars for about a decade and a half now, but this is the first time it ever won an international GT race with a closed roof vehicle and a GT3 homologated vehicle, having previously had a lot of success in GT4. And of course, we're at the Red Bull Ring. This is in Austria. It's pretty much the home circuit where they've designed and developed the car, and also where KTM took their first MotoGP wins a few weeks ago. So it was a very good run of form for the brand until about 11:30 last night.
Yeah, it was quite a late decision, wasn't it? And I'm sure they won't be happy about that, but hopefully they've got the issue sorted for today, and they can go out there and try to make up for the disappointment from yesterday. It was a really good drive from Patrick Niederhauser and Stefan Rossina. Rossina started the race, and therefore it is Niederhauser who is taking part in the qualifying session today. We're riding on board with Joe Osborne here in the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. He was in the thick of the action in yesterday's race. Brought this car home 5th place overall in the end, and Optimum Motorsport were able to get on the podium in the Pro-Am class as well. The Pro-Am class was won by the Marcello Hahn and Fran Rueda Teo Martin McLaren. Teo Martin running 2 McLarens this year, one in the Pro class, one in Pro-Am, and they managed to get on the podium with both of their cars, whilst the AM category was won by Florian Scholz and Jens Liebhauser in the Get Speed Performance Mercedes, and they had a really good drive. They were challenging. In fact, they finished 8th place overall. They were ahead of a few of the Pro-Am cars. Big stories from yesterday's race, apart from the disqualification for this car, the KTM, that Patrick Niederhauser is turning through turn number 3. The other big stories, there was contact in the early stages between Stefan Ortelli and Miguel Ramos as they were fighting over track position. Both of them had a slightly iffy qualifying session. That was a pretty entertaining scrap. And then there was a safety car midway through the race because Nicky Luttweiler in the Porsche got turned into a spin by Patrick Krapinski in the JP Motorsport Mercedes up at the middle part of the circuit through turn 6. That brought down a safety car just before the pit window opened, and that arguably cost Teo Martin's number 16 car a shot at the race victory because they were over 10 seconds ahead at that point. But a brilliant first stint for the returning Fran Rueda, 8 times a race winner in the International GTOpen is Fran, and making his first appearance of the season. And he pulled out a big gap, which was then decimated by the safety car period, and that meant that they didn't come out of the pit lane quite as far ahead of the opposition as they might have liked. After that first race then, this car that was second in the championship is now down to third. It wasn't a great day for TF Sport, the Aston Martin of Charlie Eastwood and Sally Yollet, that could only manage a 9th place finish, having qualified down in 7th. Now the good news is they will lose their handicap penalty now because they weren't on the podium. If you finish on the podium in a race, then you get time added on. It's 15 seconds for a win, 10 for second, I think 5 for third, and this accumulates each time you're on the podium up to a maximum of 30 seconds. So if you win 2 races in a row, you have a 30-second success penalty, essentially, that is added, although no one's been able to win 2 races in a row so far this year. But as soon as you're off the podium, it gets wiped clean. So the Aston Martin was off the podium for the first time since the first race of the year at the Hungaroring. They've been on the podium every race since then, until yesterday. So they lose their success penalty, and hopefully that means that we'll see a slightly racier performance from a car that we know has the potential to win races.
Yep, absolutely. Last year, the Aston Martin factory drivers, Johnny Adam and I think Darren Turner might have been sharing the car. It was 2 of Aston Martin's pros ended up winning this race for the brand. It was a bit of a chaotic weekend at the circuit. But this year, once again, there's only 1 Aston Martin on the entry list. So it is a difficult challenge to get that car up front. And obviously, the success penalty doesn't actually have any impact on how quick you are in qualifying or the race. It's purely applied in the pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the right way of doing it, really, because it means the car can still perform at the top of its game, so to speak, but you are handicapped with the pit stops. Right, lap times coming in now then. Pole position in yesterday's race was set by Fran Rueda. It was a 127.950. We're within about 4/10 of that now, and it's Vincent Abril in the car we're following, the number 17 AF Corsa Ferrari. That is quickest right now with a 128.337, half a second clear of Joe Osborne in the Optimum McLaren, and Charlie Eastwood is 3rd quickest, but has just dived for the pit lane. A couple of cars have had lap times deleted already. Car 7 is Brendan Uribe in the McLaren, the Optimum McLaren, and the other number 44, Jens Liebhauser, in the Get Speed Performance, the AM winning Mercedes from yesterday. This is the AM Porsche of Nicky Luttweiler. He's the only driver that doesn't have a co-driver, so he does all of the driving himself, which is allowed within the GTOpen regulations. It means he's a busy man with a full day of testing on Friday, qualifying session and a race on each of the Saturday and Sunday. And Luttweiler had some problems in qualifying yesterday. The car stopped for no obvious reason going into turn 1, brought out the first red flag in qualifying, then had that spin in the race, which means that he's lost quite a bit of ground in the AM Championship. This Porsche looks the business, goes quite well around this track as well, and Luttweiler at the moment is 5th fastest overall, and the fastest AM driver, Vincent Abril, is going to improve again, a 128.292. Only a small improvement, but the Ferrari looking quick, and this car is the only double winner of the season so far. We've had 5 races, 4 different winners from 4 different manufacturers as well, but the Ferrari is the only car to have won twice. They run the 2nd race at the Hungaroring and the 2nd race at Paul Ricard. Can they win the 2nd race at Red Bull Ring, do you think?
They potentially could, and I think one of their key rivals has already undone their efforts, because Brendan Iribe has had all of his laps done. He's done so far deleted for track limits, so he's done 4 laps. Every single one's been deleted. He's still on track, but his next one will also be deleted because it was at the final turn that he exceeded track limits. And car 17 has also got lap times deleted. That's actually Vincent Abril, but that's a 1:28.3, so that's not his lead time at the moment. But he has actually dropped down the order, down to 13th place at the very bottom, 5.3 seconds off pace. Christian Klein's about to exit the pits. This is a car we would like to see some good results from, maybe some, you know, race-winning pace from, because they've not had the form this season. He's currently 4.7 seconds off the pace, down in 12th place, just ahead of April. And obviously, Christian Klein, ex-Red Bull Junior, Red Bull Ring, he's got a bit of history at the circuit, so he'd definitely want a good result.
Yeah, JP Motorsport, the Mercedes that you're referring to, won the first race at the Hungaroring from pole position. It was meant to be that one, really, wasn't it? Because everything that they threw at them, safety cars and all sorts of other problems along the way, they seemed to be able to fight through to get the race victory. But then their results after that, they were 15th in race 2. They were 6th and 5th at the Paul Ricard round last time, and then 11th yesterday. So JP Motorsport have the potential to win races. They've proven that already, but they have not been able to do it since the first round. Charlie Eastwood goes to pole position with a 1:27.808, which is now quicker than the pole time yesterday, and is 8.5 tenths clear of Joe Osborne, who's in the pit lane in the McLaren. Team manager for Ram Racing is being summoned to race control immediately. That's the Mercedes that is currently 5th quickest at the moment, with 69. Callum McLeod in the car that he shares with British GT regular Sam Dehaan. Charlie Eastwood then in the Aston Martin, unleashed today. He was the car never looked all that quick yesterday, it must be said. They qualified 7th, but they had gained a couple of places by the time they got to the pit stops, and then they had that quite sizable handicap, which put them way down towards the back of the top 10 again. But Charlie had a great scrap with Joe Osborne as they were working their way past some of the Pro-Am cars, and the two were also fighting for position themselves, and eventually Eastwood was able to get through and get some decent points from the race. Down into the middle sector, he was on a quick lap, and I think he's backed off now because there was some traffic ahead. Yeah, that's the number 16 McLaren that he was catching in Marcello Hahn. As Vincent Abril now sets his first lap time since his others were all deleted and goes back to 2nd place now, 1:28.276. Joe Osborne 3rd, Patrick Niederhauser 4th in the KTM. Manuel Lauk is now the quickest AM driver in 5th place. That's really impressive, although it must be said a lot of the Pro-Am teams are fielding their AM driver in this qualifying session, which possibly is why we're seeing some of the outright AM competitors running a little bit higher. And if you look right at the 2nd placed AM is also inside the top 10.
And Leutwiler obviously gets a lot more mileage at these tracks because he doesn't share the car as often. It's a bit of a jumbled up order at the moment. We do have the two Teo Martin McLarens down in 12th and 13th place, although one's just jumped up the order. That is, or has it? No, it's actually been pushed down to the bottom because another of the cars has jumped up the order. Leutwiler's down in 8th. I can't actually see which one that is. It's Christian Klein. Yeah, so Klein's finally set a fast lap. Less than a second off the pace. He's now in 3rd place. 1:28.619.
Yeah, Christian Klein, we know he's a quick driver, a very experienced driver. He's down to 4th now, though, because Enrique Chavez, who you were just saying was last in the session, is now 2nd quickest in the session. That's a bit more like it. So Enrique Chavez in the 59 Teo Martin McLaren, the championship leading car that got their first win of the season in yesterday's race. But they've only been off the podium once this year, which is doubly impressive. Not only is that brilliant consistency, and that's the kind of consistency that's given them the championship lead, but it also means that in every race pretty much this year they've had a handicap to overcome, and that's meant that they almost always lose ground in the pit stops and have some overtaking to do. They started on the back foot yesterday with a 9th place qualifying position. But yeah, the 59 McLaren is now 2nd quickest in the session. Christian Klein here is on another decent lap. Didn't improve in the first sector, but the middle sector is a personal best. Just on the limit of the track limits there, going out of turn 9 through turn 10. Needs to find just over 8 tenths of a second to go to the top. I doubt he'll find all of that, but he might find some. He does, but although it's an improvement in time, he stays in 7th place. Enrique Chavez now comes down through the final couple of corners in the 59 car that is 2nd quickest, and this is a good lap. Personal bests in the first 2 sectors. What about the final sector? He's a 1/4 of a second slower than Charlie Eastwood. Crosses the start-finish line now and finds about half of that, so he's just over a 1/10.5 away from pole position now, with a 1:27.982 for Enrique Chavez, who stays on the front row of the grid. Joe Osborne's been pushed down to 5th place now in the Optimum McLaren, but he's in the pit lane, so I'm sure we'll see. In fact, both of the Optimum cars are in the pit lane, both of the AF Corsa cars are in the pit lane. The TF Sport Aston Martin is also in the pits. So about half of the grid, exactly half of the grid, are in pit lane. Chavez going quicker again on this lap now with a personal best in the first sector, so too Christian Klein. So they're the two quick drivers out on circuit right now. Chavez in second, Klein in fourth. I think Christian is ahead on the track, yeah, because he's just completed the middle sector. There he is, the JP Motorsport Mercedes comes out of turn number 8. Middle sector wasn't that spectacular for Christian Klein though, so I don't think he's going to be able to challenge for pole position. He's 0.4 of a second off the quickest time through the middle sector. Enrique Chavez, though, faster than anyone through sector 1, and that means that he's pretty much matching Charlie Eastwood's pole position time at the moment, so this car is unlikely to see an improvement, and indeed Klein stays in 4th. But what about Enrique Chavez as he's having lap times disallowed? Yeah, that is his fastest lap time, so Enrique Chavez needs to improve. Oh no, this lap's going to be disallowed as well, so this might go to pole position, but it's not going to stay there. He does go to pole, but I'm pretty sure that lap is going to get deleted. That's a real shame, because the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren looks really quick right now, but you've got to set the lap time legally.
Yep, and what we don't know is if he actually broke track limits on that lap as well, because then that would dot the next 2 laps from existence. So he's not having a good run. Charlie Eastwood's still on pole despite sitting in the pit, so it's a good session for him, and we're getting the notification of car 59. That's Enrique Chavez. Looking at the Pro-Am battle, Klein is 0.111 seconds ahead of Joe Osborne. 4th place overall in classification, but that is for Pro-Am pole. So we're seeing the number 13 car coming to the pits. That's Alexei Nezov, who's 3rd in the AM class, 1.8 seconds. The spread of the field's closed up now, only 2.4 seconds. About 10 minutes ago, it was closer to 6 seconds. So the AM drivers are certainly up in their game, as actually Manuel Luck has improved, and the AM class battle now is between Luck and Luttweiler.
Yes, it is. Luck is 8th and Luttweiler 10th, but there's only about 0.3 of a second or so between them. There is the 44, that's Jens Liebhauser, who is the slowest car in the session right now. But that's a good point that Elliot makes, actually, because the quickest of the AM drivers, Manuel Luck, is only a second and a half slower than Charlie Eastwood, fully fledged factory pro driver. Okay, it's not the longest circuit in the world, this one. It's not the longest lap time, but still, that's an impressively small margin there. So more and more cars are in the pit lane. Enrique Chavez had just come in as well, so he backed off after having those lap times disallowed. And so we follow the 44 of Jens Liebhauser, who's not improving on this session either, on this lap, excuse me, either. A couple of cars are further back than you might expect here. The 48 AF Corsa Ferrari is a long way back. That's the Angelo Negro car, which he shares with Stefan Ortelli, who was in the wars with yesterday. That's only 12th quickest, and Brendan Iribe in the number 7 Optimum McLaren, only 13th. Again, they're both AM drivers in Pro-Am cars. The timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen shows the order, and the different coloured numbers represent the different classes. So the red backgrounds are the Pro cars, the blue backgrounds are the Pro-Am cars, which means they have 1 Pro driver and 1 AM driver, and the green background is the AM class. So both drivers, or just one driver in Nicky Littweiler's case, are fully fledged AMs. So it's a pretty equal split across the 4 classes. The Pro cars are the ones you expect to see doing most of the winning, but we've had Pro-Am victory this year from JP Motorsport, of course. Although the other races have all been won by Pro lineups. Callum McLeod here then in the 69 car is currently 4th quickest. He's the Pro in this car that he shares with Sam Dahan. They're the quickest Pro-Am car in qualifying right now, and this lap is not going to count because he was an awfully long way off the track. You can hear the screeching of the tyres there through turns 9 and 10, even over the glorious rumble of that Mercedes engine. And, well, he goes through and improves his time, but I will be extremely surprised if that lap time counts. And the body language of this car, oh, he's already had a moment before that, has he? Oh, yeah, just dips 2 wheels into the gravel going out of turn 6 and massively exceeds track limits there. And it's then a bit pointless doing it again in the final sector because the lap time's already going to be disallowed because you exceeded track limits in turn 6. The worst thing you can do is then exceed them in the final sector, because that's what leads to your next lap time getting deleted as well. So I haven't seen official confirmation of that yet, but I would be very surprised if that lap time is allowed to stand. Here comes against Liebhauser, who has improved now to 14th ahead. No, he hasn't, sorry, he's still in 14th place because Thomas Jäger's car, which for some reason is showing as 15th, is not actually competing this weekend. We have 14 cars, and Jens Liebhauser flirts with disaster there out of the first corner. But now that spread of cars, if you take Brendan Reeb out of the equation, who's just Liebhauser's lap has just, he's just improved, sorry, up to 8th place, that's what confused me. So now the top 13 covered by less than 2 seconds, so it's getting even tighter out there.
Yeah, and the top AM car is only a second off pole position at the moment.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And this is the top AM driver in the session now, and
don't think that lap time will last now.
No, quite possibly not. That was definitely over the edge of the track. It looks good though, doesn't it? The car bouncing around a lot, and yep, you're absolutely right. The lap time deleted on 28.890, which is not. Yes, it is his fastest lap time. So he's back to the bottom now. So back to square one for Jens Liebhauser as he tries to get back up there onto the pole position. So Eastwood and Chavez still in the pit lane. Vincent Abrilla's just gone back out. 9.25 minutes left in the qualifying session. Liebhauser, again, he's run wide out of turn 9. You can hear the car bottoming out there through the apex of the corner. You can see it hopping and skipping out wide. Well, let's see where this puts him. Yeah, he goes back to the class pole. But again, he was very wide out of turn number 9. This is the number 13 Mercedes now, Alexei Nosov, who's the slowest of the AM cars out there at the moment, but only just. Can he do something about that? Yes, with a real improvement, goes 7th overall, and quite clearly to the top of the class now. So Alexei Nosov, who has a single-seater background, more than a GT racing background, suddenly finds quite a lot of time from somewhere there and moves into class pole position.
Yeah, and we're waiting to see Patrick Niederhausen come through the second sector, because he's just set the fastest first sector of anyone. He's improved to 39.58 in the second sector, so I think he could rise up onto possibly 3rd or 4th place at the moment. We've got a yellow flag at turn 1, which has just been cleared. We don't know who that's for, as we just can't see that corner. We're seeing Niederhausen come through the final 2 corners now. He has got traffic ahead of him, but he is still up. He's going very slowly through the final corner though. I wonder why that is.
Well, he's got traffic ahead of him, but I don't know why he would have backed off there. Goes across the line then and doesn't improve. Yeah, he was a long way off, over 2 seconds slower in the final sector, so was odd. I'm not quite sure why he would have felt the need. This might be the reason for the yellow flag, by the way. It's going to be Brendan Reeb, who's had a spin in the Optimum McLaren. He was following Joe Osborne, his teammate, and of course Joe is a pro driver, Brendan is an AM, so it's possible that he was trying to match Joe's speed through the corner and just couldn't quite get the car to stick. So he, unfortunately, has had a quick rotation up at turn number 1. But yeah, that was a bit strange that for Niederhauser. His next lap, he's not improved quite in the first sector, although it is a good first sector still, on a par with Charlie Eastwood's fastest first sector so far. Here's Joe Osborne coming through. Osborne's dropped down to 7th now, gets 1 of those places back ahead of Christian Klein, but he's slower than Alexei Nosov, who is, as I said, the top AM driver in the session. So Joe Osborne and Christian Klein will be a little frustrated. So too Patrick Niederhauser in the KTM, a little slower than that AM Mercedes.
And Nosov's only 0.637 seconds off pole position now, and he's still improving as well. Set 1 minute 28.445 last time out. Angelo de Gros is in 13th place. We have Luttweiler still in the pits. So we've got these pro drivers who are going to be taking over these cars, possibly still at the back of the order. While we've got these AM cars further up, but obviously won't have that pace throughout the race.
Yeah, Marcello Hahn in particular, of course, he took over that car from the race lead yesterday when Fran Rueda completed his stint. And it's not going to be the same story today. And Niederhauser's in the pit lane now, so I'm wondering if there is some sort of an issue with that KTM. You'd imagine they'd have had to have changed the brake discs last night, if that was even possible, after their disqualification for illegal brake discs that were the wrong size. But, well, that's strange. That car down in 8th place, and Patrick Niederhauser put in a good stint yesterday. Car 16 team manager being told to report to race control. That is Marcello Hahn in the Teo Martin Motorsport car. So, as if their session wasn't going paddly enough already with the car well down in 12th place. They're now in trouble for something else. Warning flag for car 44 for track limits. That's Jens Liebhauser as we watch Vincent Abril on a decent lap here. Third quickest for the AF Corsa APM Monaco Ferrari. And a personal best in the middle sector. This is Enrique Chavez, who is second, but not really running it. Well, he's not far off the pace in sector 1, I suppose. What's the sector 2 time going to be like? So he's just under a tenth and a half off the fastest first sector time. Middle sector should be ending shortly, and he's now going quicker, so this is a good lap for Enrique Chavez. Vincent Abril has gone to second, ahead of him now, so Chavez does need to try and improve if he can. Christian Klein comes out of the final corner on a quick lap too. He is fourth quickest right now in the number 88 JP Motorsport Mercedes, and he goes second onto the front row of the grid now for Christian Klein, but Enrique Chavez might be about to take that second place away from him. The Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren has been dropped down to fourth place at the moment, but he's faster than anybody else in the middle sector and goes to second, just 27 1,000ths of a second away from pole position. Charlie Eastwood is under some pressure now for that pole time. Eastwood, though, actually improved himself on the previous lap, 1:27.631, which is about 3/10 quicker than they went in yesterday's qualifying session. And it's Eastwood on pole then, Chavez second, Klein third, Vincent Abril fourth, and those four cars covered by just 3.5 tenths.
Yeah, and they're actually following each other on track as well, so they're going to be seeing what each of those cars is going to be doing. I don't think Chavez is going to gain an advantage because he's not quite close enough to get the slipstream, but also he's not going to have any traffic because he knows he's only got that Aston Martin ahead of him.
Charlie Eastwood going quicker again on this lap, but Chavez is quicker than him. This could be the lap that decides pole position here because they're all going really quickly. The top four all setting personal best lap times on the previous lap, and none of them really have to find that much time to improve their position. Eastwood is only 27 thousandths clear of Chavez, and Christian Klein is only 5 1,000ths of a second ahead of Vincent Abril. Middle sector is good for Eastwood, but it's better for Chavez. I think Chavez could be about to go to pole position. These are the two cars that we're following here, the red Aston Martin and the blue and black McLaren. They are first and second respectively in the session at the moment, but it's the chasing car, the McLaren, that is going quicker on this lap. Through the penultimate corner they go. Don't run wide. No, that was inch perfect there for Chavez out of turn 9. Eastwood will break the timing beam first. Can he improve on a 1:27.6? Yes, he can. He's 79 thousandths clear of Chavez. No, he's not. He's 3 1,000ths quicker than Chavez. While Charlie Eastwood salvaged that lap in the final sector and just about hangs on, but 3 1,000ths of a second, that has to be, if it stays that way anyway, one of the tightest ever margins for pole position that we've ever seen in the championship. That is incredible. Charlie Eastwood and Enrique Chavez matching each other beat for beat here. Christian Klein also improved, by the way, so he's third again now in the JP Motorsport Mercedes, and Vincent Abril fourth. What a battle we've got here for pole position, Elliot.
Yeah, and Eastwood's actually improving again in the first sector. Chavez is off the pace. I think he's gone on a cool-down lap. He's 2 seconds down, as is Christian Klein. But we've also got Alexei Nezov, who obviously is pitted now, but he was setting times pretty close to Eastwood in the first and second sectors before he pitted. Very interesting to see what the second sector time for Eastwood is, and he's got traffic. That's actually the Christian Klein car, I believe, so that's not going to be helpful for him. How much time that would have lost him, though, we're about to find out as he comes round at the bottom of the hill. 39.334, so that's about 2 tenths up on what the cars behind are doing, but I think Chavez was setting 39.2s when they were lapping together earlier. As he comes down into the final 2 corners now, it does look like he's relaxing. No, he's staying on track. The Christian Klein car is going into the pits. Could this be an improvement from Eastwood? Has he recovered it?
Well, let's see. He's been good in the final sector, hasn't he, so far? But he lost a good couple of tenths, as you said, in the middle sector. And now he's 1.8 seconds off by the end of the lap. What's Joe Osborne up to? He's on a good lap. He's jumped up into
fifth. It's going to be deleted, though.
Oh, no. Joe, what have you done? You've exceeded track limits at turns 9 and 10. And so the last lap and this lap are both going to not count, unfortunately. So Joe Osborne might improve temporarily from, well, in fact, he's just been dropped down to 7th place because of the previous lap time being deleted, and now this one also won't count. For reference, though, let's see, because he was faster in the first sector than the pole time. He had a good second sector. He's 9 tenths off by the end, though, and perhaps he'd been told that, actually, no, he's only a 10th off his previous best, so I think he was still pushing. Marcello Hahn has just gone 8th quickest now in the second Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. So Marcello Hahn finding a bit more speed ahead of Jens Liebhauser, who is in the pit lane. And Patrick Niederhauser still in the pits as well. I'm convinced that KTM's got problems because they've completed quite a few... well, no, they've completed 13 laps, which is about the average, but none of them have been that quick. Joe Osborne's going to get another lap time deleted now, I think, if he's not careful, because he's Just a bit wide there, coming out of turn number 4. Turn number 3, sorry, now this is turn number 4. Downhill braking zone here for the McLaren factory driver. And 7th quickest. Not really where he would have liked to have been. This team's best result was 2nd place overall at Paul Ricard in the first race. Nick Moss has also been partnered by James Pickford for the opening rounds at the Hungaroring, with Joe Osborne jumping on board at Ricard and Red Bull. Charlie Eastwood is in the pit lane now. So the top 6 cars are all in and the checkered flag is now out. So it's going to be a slightly calmer end to the session maybe than we were anticipating, with most of the quick runners in the pits already. But it is Charlie Eastwood who looks as though by 3/1000ths of a second, it looks like he is on pole position, and that is their 2nd pole of the year, because they had pole position at the first race at Paul Ricard. Eastwood gets out of the car, very calmly walks over to the garage, and the Irish driver then the fastest man here this weekend, and that is exactly what they needed after a disappointing time yesterday. Brendan Iribe comes through and stays 12th place at the end of the session, and that is it. Everyone pretty much now has completed their final lap. So Charlie Eastwood then with the pole, Chavez 2nd, Clean is 3rd, the quickest of the Pro-Am cars, but of course he is a pro driver himself, and then Alexei Nosov in 7th position, quickest of the AMs, with Jens Liebhauser in 9th place. But a few stories I think to chase up here in the break between qualifying and the race, because the KTM definitely seems off the pace. Number 7 McLaren that we're seeing there is a lot further down than they'd like to be. So I think, Elliot, we're in for another really interesting race, and given just how tight it is at the front of the field, yeah, this could be even more entertaining than yesterday's race was.
Yeah, and a theory on the KTM, it is a self-developed car by Ryder Engineering, so potentially the new brake pads it got on just don't, fit the car. Yeah,
that could well be the problem. Well, here is your qualifying classification then, and provisionally this is how the grid will line up for race number 2 later on. Charlie Eastwood and Enrique Chavez make it an Aston Martin McLaren front row, with Christian Klein and Vincent Abril 3rd and 4th. So again, as yesterday, 4 different brands of car represented in the top 4 positions. Joe Osborne is 5th quickest in his McLaren, ahead of the Ram Racing Mercedes of Callum McLeod, who got a podium on their debut yesterday. Alexei Nosov, Marcello Hahn, Jens Liebhauser and Patrick Niedhauser round out the top 10, with Manuel Lauk, Brendan Iribe, Angelo Negro and Nicky Luttweiler rounding out the 14 runners. Right then, we can head down now, I think, and speak to Charlie Eastwood.
Charlie Eastwood, pole position at Red Bull Ring. It's your 2nd of the year.
Yeah, it was great. We struggled a little bit yesterday, and obviously the result in the race definitely wasn't ideal. It's a track that really, track position is massive.
Good job, man.
Good job, well done.
3,000.
Yeah, it's a track that the track position really makes a difference, so we knew we had to deliver this morning, and yeah, the car was absolutely perfect, and I don't think there was a lot left in it. So yeah, going off pole for the race is the best place, and hopefully we can keep it there.
It is a very special track, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a strange one. It's so short at 4.4k, but it's so difficult to actually get every sector together, because there's a few corners, and obviously we're on the side of a mountain, so the car has to be absolutely spot on, and as it was. So great job by TF, and obviously the Aston was great.
Well done. See you this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Charlie Eastwood then on pole position for round number 6 of the International GTOpen Championship that will take place a little bit later on this afternoon, around 1:30 local time. Be sure to check back in for all of the action. It's going to be a really entertaining race. Aston Martin and McLaren on the front row of the grid, and after this race we will be halfway through the 2020 season. So this is a really pivotal moment in the championship. Be sure to join us then for the race a little bit later on. For now though, from the Red Bull Ring, it is goodbye.